Jonathan Frakes' career took a shocking turn after he played Commander Riker in Star Trek. When his 2004 movie Thunderbirds didn't do well at the box office, Hollywood immediately banned him. Studios stopped getting calls. He had to get rid of things. To help things keep going, his wife started a store. It was called Movie Jail, and didn't show up in movies for almost 20 years. The truth about what happened next, though, shows a comeback story that Hollywood tried to hide. Jonathan Frakes was born in a small hospital in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, on August 19, 1952. Even though they lived in State College, all of their children were born in Bellefonte. Jonathan used to joke that people from Penn State came to see him there and not just to see the baby. But Bellefonte had liquor stores while state schools did not. His father James was a well-known English professor, and his mother Doris worked hard as a teacher. Jonathan's family moved to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, when he was 5 years old because his dad got a job at Lehigh University. Jonathan and his younger brother Daniel grew up there. Daniel would later die in 1997 from pancreatic cancer, which was very sad. Jonathan got a trombone when he was in the 4th grade. It wasn't his choice, it was his long arms. But that chance choice made me love music for the rest of my life. Jonathan quickly became good at jazz after his father taught it to him. In Bethlehem, it was a big deal that he joined the Liberty High School Grenadier Band. They won first place in both the field and parade events at the Festival of States in Florida in 1970. In their honor, the mayor even changed the name of a city street. That was a great moment for Jonathan. He said that the band was better than the football team and that people came just to see them play at halftime. He began college at Penn State as a psychology major after high school. It didn't last long. In the summer, he worked as an usher at a theater event and was asked to join a play by the director. When Jonathan saw how much fun the players were having, he switched his major right away to theater arts. After that, he made fun of the idea that a theater degree might not be very useful, but it did change his life. He joined the theater group at Penn State and did shows all the time. He loved it and hardly slept. Jonathan went to Harvard to get more training after getting his BFA in 1974. He got into the professional acting school at the Loeb Drama Center and worked with real theater companies during the summers. He said it was the kind of place where students could be hired to help out. It was hard work, and the older actors and producers around him taught him a lot. He learned how to go pro by both following rules and getting real-world experience. While at Penn State, Jonathan Frakes earned a degree in theater arts in 1974. He packed up his things and went to New York City to follow his dream as an actor, just like thousands of other people. New York didn't help, though. He moved furniture and waited tables, and one time it hurt his back. In the difficult ragtime theater, he played small parts, and in Eugene O'Neill's The Hairy Ape, he had a part. He finally made it to Broadway in 1976 with the show Shenandoah. But one of the strangest jobs he had was going to comic book events as Captain America for Marvel Comics. Aside from not being fun, it taught him how to deal with people, which came in handy many years later. He got his first big break in 1977. He got a part on the NBC soap series The Doctors as Tom Carroll, a Vietnam veteran. He made a steady income from it for a while. The part didn't last, though. His agent told him to try Los Angeles after writing out his part. In 1978, he packed up again and headed west. That's where changes began to happen slowly. He didn't become famous right away, but living in Los Angeles gave him more chances to be on TV. Big shows like Fantasy Island, The Waltons, Quincy, Maine, and The Dukes of Hazzard had him as a guest star. Even though these weren't major parts, they helped him become known. He was going to auditions, learning the ropes, and proving himself one at a time. He got a part in a TV movie called Beach Patrol in 1979. Thought it would be the start of a new show, it didn't work out. Another dead end. The movie was created by big names like Aaron Spelling and starred him Robin Strand and Christy Delisle. But even the big names couldn't save it. As is the case with many stars in Hollywood, Frakes kept getting pilots that were never picked up. He worked on it, but the big break seemed very far away. In 1983, he thought he had finally found it. His role on NBC's hit primetime soap opera Bare Essence was based on a mini-series that did well. Many people didn't care about the big risk, so the show was stopped soon after it began. Yet another loss. This time, though, it turned out well. She was on that set when he met her. They didn't get along at first. He even made fun of her hair, but things weren't over for them yet. They met again on the set of the huge Civil War movie North and South in 1985, 2 years after the first time. They shot all over the southern US for 6 months, and this time something worked. Their romance began, and Frakes' career took a big step forward. A lot of people liked North and South, and Frakes really stood out as Stanley Hazard. Now people were beginning to notice him. Then 1987 came along. Jeannie and her family pushed Frakes to try out for a brand new sci-fi show. He tried out 7 times over 6 weeks before he got the part. Captain William Riker on Star Trek The Next Generation was played as him. At this point everything changed. Things had been going badly for years, with shows being cancelled and pilots being lost. His work routine meant that even though he and Jeannie were engaged, the wedding had to be put off twice. But they made it happen. They got married on May 28, 1988 during the first break in the show. But Jonathan Frakes wasn't the first person that came to mind in 1987 to play Commander William Riker. He had to struggle to get it. William Campbell, Michael O'Gorman, or even Jeffrey Combs could have played the part. The company almost hired someone else, but Gene Roddenberry, who made Star Trek, stepped in. He thought Frakes reminded him of himself. He didn't just lie down and stand by him. He called people. He worked hard, and Frakes got the part. After many years, Frakes said Roddenberry may have seen more than a little of himself in Riker. Once Frakes was on the show, he made something up by mistake that became famous: the Riker maneuver. It wasn't meant to look cool. The chairs on set were too low and didn't fit right. So instead of sitting down, he swung his leg behind him. It seemed brave, maybe even too brave. Frakes laughed later that it might have looked like a jerk move, but fans loved it. It turned into something. With a shout of Riker as he got on a seat, even Jack Quaid did it in the lower decks. There's also another Riker move from Insurrection, but that one was more about how to fight. Fans didn't expect something to happen when the best of both worlds played. Jonathan Frakes was no longer just the calm second-in-command as Riker. He was standing next to someone just as smart. Elizabeth Dennehy plays Colonel Shelby in charge. They seemed tense when they were together. The captain rolled his eyes. Shelby put in more effort. People really liked it. A lot of people remembered the shows when they were shown in theaters years later. Someone even yelled "Reddit girl" when Shelby teased Riker in the lift. That line wasn't just amusing. It was clear that they got along well. It was felt by the crowd. Some viewers began to imagine a show in which Riker was the captain and Shelby was his staff officer. You thought about what might have been. It wasn't just a surprise turn of events. There was a different side of Riker that was shown. He wasn't sure if he was ready for the big chair. There were some funny parts in Star Trek though. Jonathan Frakes told me something interesting once. He said Gene Roddenberry told him not to smile. Frakes said it was silly. He laughed about it afterward. After casting me, they told me not to smile. The truth, there were lots of jokes on the set. The group was very loud, fun, and always laughing. That's what Frakes, Patrick Stewart, and Brent Spiner wanted to bring to the film as well. They liked the old group a lot. Bones, Spock, and Kirk, and they all wanted the same spark. Not only did they say lines, but they also made fun of each other, teased each other, and had fun. You could feel their friendship in every show. They weren't just pretending, their real bond showed through in their roles. People didn't seem to take Jonathan Frakes seriously when he first asked to direct an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Rick Berman, who runs the show, didn't say no. Frakes could tell by the look on his face. He kept that doubtful look on his face. So Frakes stopped talking and got to work instead of pushing again. He worked on it for months. Almost 300 hours of his time were spent in editing rooms, casting calls, and as many pre-production meetings as he could fit in. Afterward, he showed up with a 47-page report. It had everything. He drew scripts by hand, with its detailed camera setups and character breakdowns. That paper became known as the Riker Directive. Something changed when Berman finally looked at it. Frakes didn't just ask for a chance, he created one himself. His first show was called The Offspring, and it was an emotional story about Data making an android daughter. It was hard. Frakes had to act and direct at the same time because he was still playing Commander Riker. He ran from behind the camera to in front of it scene after scene while wearing his Starfleet outfit under a director's jacket. He worked 18-hour days. He didn't get much sleep, but it paid off. The show aired in March 1990 and was praised as one of the best in the whole series. Frakes still wasn't happy with how he played the part in the show. He asked the people who edited his work to shorten some of his scenes. That's how caught up he was in directing. After that, he said, "I like it better, and I'm better at running things than I am at playing." But some people didn't trust him right away. There were some group members who didn't know what to do when one of them was in charge. Patrick Stewart was nice to people outside of work, but he wasn't sure if actors could lead other actors. That first morning Marina Sirtis didn't even look him in the eye. There was a love story going on in the show, and she was afraid it would make things awkward. Data was played by Brent Spiner, who came with extra notes to protect his character. The job was done by Frakes. He wasn't rude. He was focused on doing well. He paid close attention. Stewart had changed his mind by the end of the second day. Sirtis laughed with him once more. Spiner put his notes somewhere safe. The cast began to understand that Frakes had done something they hadn't. He had prepared for this. They didn't see what he meant by stealth directing. When he had parts as Riker, he got to the set 90 minutes early to make sure everything was ready. He already had lists of shots ready. He had already talked over everything with the cameraman. He locked himself in the editing bay to watch old footage during lunch, while the rest of the team took breaks. He wasn't asked to do that. He did it now. He did that to keep things going smoothly without looking like he was bragging. And Frakes had a secret tool for working with the camera. He would go to a small bar called the Warp Core after filming was over, with Marvin Rush, who is in charge of shooting the show. They would drink Macallan 18 for hours on end, and Rush would use bar napkins to teach him how to make movies. Placement of light, angles and design were all worked out while I drank and drew. Frakes kept them for a long time. 13 of them are still framed in his office. By the time Paramount needed a director for Star Trek First Contact, they didn't pick him first. Well-known people like John McTiernan and Ridley Scott had already said no. But Frakes knew more than anyone else about Star Trek. He got the mood, the people, and the world. That's why Paramount hired him. Frakes had 10 weeks to get ready and 12 weeks to film. He was used to only having 7 days for each part on TV, so this was a big change. He watched old movies like Jaws, Close Encounters, and 2001 to get ready. A Journey Through Space. They even looked at the work of James Cameron and Ridley Scott. He was aware of the stress. It was no longer just TV. When the Borg Queen was made, it caused a big change. At first the writers wanted the Borg to stay a dumb group, but Jonathan Dulgan, the boss of Paramount, said the movie needed a real bad guy, someone the characters could talk to. That's when the Borg Queen thought of itself. It was hard to cast her. They needed someone scary, creepy and interesting who was also dangerous. Frakes found Kate Crad to be that person. She was a great fit for the part. She had wires for hair, pale skin, and an oddly long head that took hours to make up. The scene where she walks in with her upper body lowered and connected to her spine became the most memorable image in the movie. That shot took ILM 5 months to make. In First Contact, everything was bigger than TV. Making up for Borg took 5 hours instead of 1. It took an extra 30 minutes to get into costume. Taking it off 90 more. Too few artists, less than 20 to meet their needs. The makeup got worse as the movie went on. There were more wires and goo. The Borg looked like they had oil leaks. That made them scary. Built a rig to lower Craig's body for the Queen scene. She wore a blue suit and used digital tricks to make it look like she was flying. It was a brave move that paid off. People liked First Contact. The critics and fans both loved it. Patrick Stewart even said it was the most beautiful Star Trek movie ever. Frakes then went on to direct Star Trek: An Uprising. But lightning didn't strike twice. The follow-up wasn't as good. There were mixed reviews. The story didn't seem to go anywhere. Later, Stewart said that some parts of even Nemesis, which Frakes didn't direct, were better. Feeling let down. And it slowed down Frakes' progress. Then in 2004 Thunderbirds came out, a big show with big hopes. It was a well-known name. The movie had a good budget, a strong cast: Bill Paxton, Ben Kingsley, but it did not do well at the box office. It was torn apart by critics. People didn't show up. Frakes later said that no one called him back after Thunderbirds. It was called movie jail. He had to sell things. He went from London to Maine to help things keep going. His wife started a store. It was a fresh start. Since then he hasn't directed a full-length movie. It's been more than 20 years. He didn't give up though. He went back to what he knew, which was TV and Star Trek. He directed parts of newer Star Trek shows as well as other shows, such as The Library. He said that TV had turned into a place where people could throw up and no one would notice who did it. It wasn't exciting, but it was steady. Jonathan Frakes didn't mean to fall in love on the set of a movie. He was just doing his job on the little show North and South about the Civil War in 1985. He was 32 years old and not very well known. But then Jeannie Francis showed up. Working with Patrick Swayze and Leslie Ann Down made her a star right away. It was all business at first. In Charleston and Natchez, where the movies were shot though, something changed. They went to New Orleans together during the Memorial Day break. That's when everything made sense. It's funny because they had met before on the set of a show called Bare Essence that didn't last long. Frakes believed she was too young. He was almost 30 years old and she was only 20. But it wasn't the right time back then. North and South gave them another chance, and this time it worked. Frakes still says, "She took a chance on me in some way. I don't get why she would want to go on a date with me." On May 28, 1988, they got married. That was more than 38 years ago. That's a very long time in Hollywood years. Jeannie didn't have to be in Star Trek, so she wasn't. You might have heard of her already. She has played Laura Collins on General Hospital since 1977 and has been in more than 890 shows. She was the star when they first met. As soon as Frakes became Commander Riker on Star Trek: The Next Generation, he got his own attention. They were there for each other the whole time. Frakes often runs lines with her, which helps her remember those hard 30 pages of conversation days when she was filming soap operas. They had 2 children. They have a daughter named Eliza who is now writing and acting like them. But Frakes has a great loss that goes along with all of his success. It was pancreatic cancer that killed his brother Daniel in 1997. He was only 41 years old. It took place a week before Frakes' daughter was born. Daniel wasn't just a brother or sister, he was his best friend. In a beat-up 1967 Chevy sport van, they had moved to New York together. Each had a small room and big hopes. Doctors tried a big surgery called the Whipple method on Daniel when they found out he had cancer, but it had already spread too far. They shut him up again. They told us there was no way out. There may be 6 months left. At that time, only 4% of people with pancreatic cancer were still alive. While Frakes was broken, he didn't let his sadness stay with him. His job with PanCan, the pancreas, has been going on for 25 years. Cancer Action Network to get more people to know about it and fight for better results. His goal went from being private to being public. Armed Shimmerman, Kitty Swink, who had been cancer-free for 18 years, and John Billingsley were some of the other Star Trek stars who came together to start Trek Against Pancreatic Cancer in 2022. They began walking for a reason. To raise money for PanCan, they walk in 60 towns across the country every April 29th, as part of the Purple Stride. Frakes starts his from the Santa Monica Pier most of the time. Their group has raised a lot of money for study and help. Things are slowly getting better because of work like this. Death rates have slowly gone up from 4% to about 11% to 12%. Not as bad as before, but better. Over the years, PanCan has put $174 million into study. They gave out a record $25 million in grants in 2022, including $10.5 million in study grants. Frakes always talks about finding pancreatic cancer early, which is very important if it runs in your family. He knows how fast someone can do it. That's why he keeps showing up, walking and talking. When Thunderbirds failed at the box office in 2004, Jonathan Frakes stopped being in movies. About $57 million was lost on the movie. It was panned by critics. People didn't care about it. It turned its back on him in Hollywood. It wasn't safe for studios to work with the director of one of the worst movies of the 2000s. His name slowly disappeared from short lists of directors. He had no choice but to look elsewhere by 2006. He started directing TV shows again. Not big hits or flashy shows. He worked on Nickelodeon kids shows like Zoe 101 and True Jackson. He didn't use a fake name, even though some people thought he might out of shame. He always used his real name, even for little things. He was slowly getting better. Something changed in 2010. He was asked to direct episodes of Castle, NCIS, and Los Angeles. Both were big TV shows on networks. He was back in the game. He was no longer the guy whose movies didn't do well at the box office. He was the one who stayed and kept going. People began calling him the sci-fi fixer after that. He was in charge of 17 different science fiction or fantasy shows that were either having trouble or were still getting used to each other. He did work on House 13, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Roswell, The Librarians, and Orphan Black. They called Frakes when money was tight and plots were a mess. He gave things order. He sped things up. It worked because of him. As of 2016, he had directed more than 100 TV shows. After that, the rumors began. He was called the genre whisperer by people in the business. He wasn't loud or flashy, but he got things done. He was good at adding action, fun, and interesting characters to shows that didn't have any of those things before he came along. In 2018, it looked like he was going to really come back. CBS gave the show beyond belief, fact or fiction, a second chance. Frakes was going to direct every show as well as host them. People who liked the old show were happy. The group was all set. Then 3 days before filming started, CBS stopped everything. That's it. They said there were creative differences. It was like going back in time. There were also a lot of problems with the first version of Beyond Belief. Fox kept switching its times. It wasn't shown for 2 years before it was cancelled. The restart was also dead. Frakes didn't give up before the game even began. He brought the show back to Germany in 2021. It was called The Unknown X Factor. LA was where they shot. He was host again. Different network, different country, but the same creepy stories and the same cool voice telling people to make up their own minds about what was real.